Hi, Lemon Draws. It's Lemonade Lass. So today, we're putting our money where our mouth is and we're drawing stuff. Yippee! As you may or may not know, the new Madoka movie is coming out in February, and it got me thinking. Madoka Magica was one of the first animes I ever watched. That's right, I got traumatized by episode 3 at the ripe age of 14.
Oh, it's adorable. Oh, it's traumatized.
So I was about the same age as the girls the anime was about. Anyways, here we are 10 years later, still keeping those tragic magical girls alive. Let's take a look at what this tragic magical girl story inspired me to draw back in the day. And okay, wow. Here's the kind of fan art I was drawing.
That's rough, buddy.
Let's take a closer look and really like talk about what we're seeing here. Okay, first of all, why are they all posted up like that?
I don't know.
They look like they're waiting for a bus, but trying to look cool about it. Mommy girl, someone call the ambulance. Her ankles are broken. Those things are bent at angles that defy medical science.
You don't want to be like this.
Where does Kyoko's hair end and her dress begin? The world may never know. It's all just one big glorious red blob.
Well, that's a problem. But not my fault. I did everything I could.
5 magical girls, 0 faces. The ultimate I haven't learned how to draw faces yet workaround. Strategic legend. The lighting said, what are dark shadows? Contrast, never heard of her.
Now the main problem area is up here. All of this going on up here is what's causing me the most physical discomfort. It's like a visceral reaction of discontent coming from this area. This area is not good either. I hate this, but I'm mainly worried about this.
Everything's the same mid-tone and just vibing. The purple background fog is giving, I found one brush that I really liked and went kind of crazy with it.
Approved!
Oh my god, what is line art? Why is it so messy? Like, there's not a single clean line to be found.
Where is it? Where the is it? I swear to God!
But you know what? We're not just here to roast. We're also here to fix. Fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it! Oh my god, let's take it all the way back to the chalkboard. I'm gonna start today by gathering reference images and collecting poses I like. For starters, I'm looking at photos of Madoka cosplayers. I'm pretty sure I was referencing a cosplay group's photograph for my old fan art, so it makes sense to use that tactic again here. Referencing cosplayers can have great benefits. It shows you exactly how their clothing wrinkles, how they would realistically hold their weapons, and just gives you that grounded real-world feel. After saving a couple of cosplay pictures, I move on to posing. At first, I consider redrawing the piece exactly as it is, but with, obviously upgraded art. But upon closer inspection, I'd like to update the composition as well. I want to actually draw a couple of faces this time, I want to add some more natural looking poses, and I would like to create more depth in the overall piece. Alright, I've got a lot of cool reference images now. Let's start Frankensteining these images into a custom reference of our own. We want to keep it a group shot. We're keeping the girls looking away from Madoka as Madoka is crumpled on the ground. The emotional core is staying. I start with the pose I've chosen for Madoka, placing the reference image toward the lower center of the canvas. Next, Jesus Christ, I am thirsty.
I'm thirsty. Refreshing.
Next, I'm adding Mommy's pose. In this image, we have a maid facing the camera while holding a rifle. I like the pose, but I'm going to flip her around and pretend she's facing away from the camera instead, referencing our old composition. I delete the photograph's background so we can see a little more clearly. Next, I'm adding the pose I want Sayaka to be in. Here, we're using an image of a figure holding a sword and looking up and to the left. I like that we can see her face. In this composition, it could almost look like she's standing tall, ready to fight for Madoka. Plus, I actually wanted to draw her face this time around, so I appreciate that this pose allows us to do that. Next, you can see I'm adding a figure holding a shield to represent Homura. I like the pose, but upon closer inspection, I notice it's not actually a photograph, so I ultimately end up replacing it with this gladiator type girl. Now that I'm happy with how I want the posing to look, I begin sketching over our little Frankenstein reference. You can see I'm not actually tracing the photos, I'm using them as a guide before adding my own cartoony style. For example, Mommy's sketch here looks almost nothing like her reference photo. Now I'm moving on to the strong-headed Kyoko. You can see the photo added some sort of lens distortion magic and the sphere isn't perfectly straight, so we're ignoring that part of the reference. The photograph's robes begin to turn into this long tunic with ruffles. I add her signature crazy long ponytail and she's coming together. Now we're sketching Sayaka, who also starts to look fairly different from her initial photograph. Instead of a dress, Sayaka has this cool heroic cape, so we draw that right away. I wanted her head to be more in a profile view, so I changed that immediately. We add her skirt and blouse, her bobbed hair, and she's starting to look like Sayaka. I go back in and clean up Homura a bit more, adding her signature swoopy hair. I start adding her skirt and legs, and I make sure her feet are lined up with Sayaka's feet on the other end of the composition. Gotta keep that visual balance, you know.
Perfectly balanced. This whole thing should be.
Then I add more details to her shirt and face. Then there's Madoka. I struggled the hardest with her. I had a really hard time finagling this pose into my style.
Oh, no! Not you again! I've dealt with this 3 times this week already!
Her poofy skirt gave her a bit of a strange silhouette, but hey, we're trying here. You can see me go in and start cleaning it up with a less textured brush so I can figure out the anatomy a little bit better. I mess with that until I'm satisfied, then I go back over that sketch again with a messy brush because I didn't like how smooth her lines were compared to the other magical girls.
Oh, we were right there, man!
Consistency, people! I think she looks much better now. Now it's time for cleanup!
You've arrived at your destination.
First up, I'm cleaning Homura's line art. I had so much fun adding some swoopy shapes to her hair. I really wanted to give it that flowy, almost ethereal quality that she has in the anime. Homura's design has always been one of my favorites because it's so sleek and elegant compared to the other girls. There's something almost cold about her silhouette, which fits her personality perfectly. Now, our photo reference used a pretty large shield, but after double checking some screenshots and official art, Homura's shield should actually be much smaller. It's more of a buckler size, really, so I'm resizing it and referencing a cosplay prop I found online to get all the details just right. The shield is such an iconic part of her designs, so I really wanted to do it justice here. It's also kind of funny how something so small carries so much narrative weight in the series, you know? Moving on, I'm cleaning up Kyoko's crazy long ponytail. Super jealous of that length, by the way, my hair could never. I'm drawing it a bit messier and choppier compared to Homura's sleek, flowy style. Kyoko has that wild, untamed energy to her, so I wanted her hair to reflect that. She's a scrappy fighter and a survivor, so giving her perfectly styled hair just wouldn't feel right. I'm also making sure the ponytail breaks the silhouette of the character so we don't run into a problem where we can't tell her red hair apart from her red dress. When you're working with a character whose entire palette is basically one color, you really have to think about how to create visual separation. The last thing I want is for her to look like a big red blob again. Back to one of the first magical girls we meet in the series, I start off by lining Mommy's rifle because apparently that's just where my brain decided to begin today. Don't ask me why I draw things in the order I do. To be honest, there's no logic here, just vibes. After the rifle, I jump to adding details to her hat and her hair. I really enjoy drawing these drill-like twin tails. They're super satisfying to render and they give her such a distinctive, elegant look. Next, I line the arms, followed by the poofy skirt, and then I work on her corset and the ribbon wrapping around her waist. Mommy's design is so intricate and refined, very fitting for her role as the experienced put-together senpai of the group. I only partially draw her legs here since Madoka will be layered in front of her in the final composition. No sense in doing extra work that no one's gonna see, right?
You right.
I love lining Sayaka because her pose gives her this in-motion sort of look. She's leaning towards the action with her sword raised, ready to attack. There's so much energy in her stance, and I think it really captures who she is as a character. In the series, Sayaka is eager to fight, almost recklessly so, even when it causes detriment to herself. She throws herself into battle without thinking about the consequences, and that impulsiveness is both her greatest strength and her fatal flaw. She surprisingly had way more details than I remembered. This girl has ruffles on every surface of her uniform, not to mention the pleated skirt, the corset, the thigh-high socks, the boots, and the cape. Hello? Who approved this design knowing animators would have to draw it over and over again?
I'm tired of this, Grandpa!
That's too damn bad!
I respect the commitment to the aesthetics, but also, my hand hurts just thinking about it. Side note, I always wanted to cosplay Sayaka, but I only ever ended up cosplaying Kyoko for some reason, which is kind of ironic given their relationship in the show. Maybe one day, I'll finally do it. By the way, her sword is way crazier than I remember. As for our doomed heroine herself, I'm really allowing her hair to be messy to emphasize her state of distress. In this piece, she's clearly going through it, so I wanted every element of her design to reflect that emotional turmoil. I've exaggerated her spine curvature to better express her emotions, since her face is still hidden by her hand in this composition. When you can't rely on facial expressions to convey a feeling, body language becomes so much more important. Like Sayaka, this outfit has a ton of details, ruffles, frills, lace, ribbons, and did I mention ruffles? Because there are so many damn ruffles! Honestly, if I hadn't watched the series, I would have mistaken this girl for a cupcake. Her design is super soft and sweet, which makes the dark themes of the show hit even harder. There's something so tragic about putting this precious looking girl through absolute hell, and I think that contrast is very intentional on the creator's part. Alright, now we're getting into my favorite part, coloring! Yeah! My process is mostly straightforward, but I'll walk you through it step by step. I start by laying down base colors on each of the girls, beginning with their skin tones. I like to get all the skin done first because it helps me see the characters as a cohesive group before I start differentiating them with their individual palettes. Then I create a new layer and I use it as a clipping mask, so the color won't spill outside the base we just made. Clipping masks are genuinely one of the best tools in digital art. If you're not using them, please start, they will change your life.
I like you. Have a cupcake.
I'm coloring Sayaka first since she's positioned prominently in the composition. Whoops, I just noticed I didn't draw her hair clip accurately. It's got this very specific detail that I glossed over during the line art phase. Wondering what FF means? I can actually answer this because both of my parents were band directors, so I grew up surrounded by musical terminology, whether I liked it or not. Her hair clip is actually a reference to the musical term fortissimo, which is instruction for musicians to play very loudly. It's often used to express intense emotion in a composition, which makes perfect sense for Sayaka. She's a character defined by her emotional intensity. She feels everything so deeply and so loudly. When she loves with her whole heart. When she's hurt, that pain consumes her entirely.
Emotional damage!
The fortissimo symbol is such a clever little detail that tells you exactly who this character is before she even speaks a line. Speaking of symbolism, blue as a color often represents both loyalty and sadness, two things that define Sayaka's arc. She's loyal to a fault, especially when it comes to the people she cares about, but her story is also one of the most heartbreaking in the series. She wanted so badly to be a hero, to be someone worthy of love, and watching that dream crumble is really sad. Every time I rewatch the show, her episodes hit me harder. Moving on to Mami, her warm yellow tones are so fitting for her role as the experienced mentor figure. I'm laying down these golden hues and immediately the composition feels warmer and more inviting in the areas where she's present. Yellow often symbolizes warmth, optimism, guidance, and wisdom, which is exactly what Mami provides to the newer magical girls when we first meet her. She's confident, capable, and reassuring. She makes being a magical girl look glamorous and heroic. But yellow can also be a color of caution. It's the color of warning signs, of proceed with care. And if you've seen the show, you know exactly why that's significant. I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't watched, but let's just say Mami's role in the story takes a sharp turn that recontextualizes everything about her character. That cheerful yellow suddenly feels a lot more ominous in hindsight. Next up is Kyoko, and her fiery red palette is so fun to work with. Red represents passion, aggression, survival, and intensity, all core traits of her character. Kyoko is a fighter who's learned to prioritize herself after experiencing tremendous loss. She's rough around the edges, confrontational, and seemingly selfish at first glance. But as the series progresses, we learn that her tough exterior is a defense mechanism. She's been hurt before, and she's terrified of being hurt again. That fierce, almost combative energy really comes through in her design. Even her casual stance feels like she's ready to throw down at any moment. Red is also the color of love and sacrifice, which becomes incredibly relevant to her arc later in the series. Her relationship with Sayaka is one of the most compelling dynamics in the show, and the way their colors contrast visually is no accident. Now for Madoka herself. Her soft pinks represent innocence, compassion, hope, and unconditional love. Throughout the series, Madoka is portrayed as gentle and deeply empathetic, always wanting to help others even at a great personal cost. She sees someone suffering and her first instinct is to reach out, to comfort, to save. Pink suits her perfectly as someone who carries so much love in her heart, even when faced with impossible choices.
Help is on the way, dear!
Mrs. Doubtfire!
Help is on the way!
There's also something almost divine about the way pink is used in her design, especially as the series progresses. Without spoiling too much, Madoka's role in the story evolves in ways that make her color choice feel almost prophetic. She's associated with light, hope, and salvation, concepts that pink captures beautifully. It's a color that feels soft and gentle, but also powerful in its warmth. Finally, Homura. Her darker color scheme, those deep purples and blacks, represent mystery, isolation, determination, and grief. Homura carries the weight of knowledge that no one else has, and her colors reflect that loneliness and and the shadows she operates within. While the other girls are bright and vibrant, Homura feels muted, restrained, and like she's holding something back. There's a reason she feels so visually separate from the brighter palette of the other girls. Purple is often associated with royalty and power, but also with sadness and with solitude. Homura is arguably the most powerful character in the series, but that power comes at an enormous emotional cost. Her design tells you she's different, that she's carrying burdens the others can't even imagine.
With great power comes great responsibility.
The contrast between her dark tones and Madoka's soft pinks is especially significant given their relationship in the story.
I have arrived.
Alright, all the girls are colored and looking gorgeous. Now it's time to tackle the background, which is one of my favorite parts of this whole project. Something I've always loved about Madoka Magica is the photobash collage-style backgrounds we see in the Witch's Labyrinth. They're so surreal and unsettling, completely different from the clean, normal world where the characters usually inhabit. The art team did such an incredible job creating these nightmarish spaces that feel both beautiful and deeply wrong at the same time. So we're going to try and capture a little bit of that energy here. In Madoka lore, Walpurgisnacht is said to be the most powerful witch, a being so destructive that multiple magical girls need to team up just to have a chance against her.
We'll use the power of friendship.
She has this carnival, circusy theme going on, like a twisted celebration of destruction. Now, we're not going that crazy with the whole circus today because honestly that would take forever and I do have to sleep at some point. But we will have an ominous photobash Ferris wheel looming in the distance to hint at that carnival aesthetic. I'm honestly not too worried about perfection here. I'm just having fun with the piece and experimenting with different elements. I think that any background is an improvement from our 10-year-old art, considering that art had no background at all. Past me really said, what's the background, and called it a day, huh?
Done. Now let's see how it looks so far.
We have grown so much. If you've heard me talk about my process before, you know I love adding a static overlay to my pieces. There's something about that subtle grain and texture that makes digital art feel less sterile and more organic. It adds visual interest without being distracting, and it ties everything together nicely. I use it on almost all of my work at this point. It's become kind of a signature element of my style. I'm also adding this geometric sidewalk with a chromatic aberration effect. The Witch's Labyrinths in Madoka often feature these impossible architectural elements, staircases that lead to nowhere, repeating patterns, geometry that doesn't quite make sense. I wanted to capture a little bit of that surreal, unsettling quality without going too overboard. The chromatic aberration adds to that glitchy, otherworldly feeling. I found a cool free image of a Ferris wheel online, and now I'm editing it to remove the background and make the ride look way less inviting. Ferris wheels are supposed to be fun, right? They're associated with carnivals and joy and romantic moments at the top where you can see the whole city. But in the context of Walpurgisnacht, that imagery becomes corrupted and sinister. I'm desaturating it, adding some blur, playing with the contrast until it looks a little bit more ominous. I like how the Ferris wheel frames the girls now. It adds to that eerie, unsettling atmosphere the show is known for. The girls are in the foreground, vibrant and detailed, while this looming threat watches over them from behind. It creates a sense of impending doom without being too on the nose about it. Now I'm picking out 2 textured brushes to make the art feel more organic and give it an almost watercolory style. I don't want the piece to look too clean or too digital. The official Madoka art has this slightly rough, almost sketch-like quality to it in some scenes, and I want to honor that aesthetic. These brushes add subtle variation and imperfection that makes the whole thing feel more alive. I start adding shadows to the girls using a multiply layer, which creates a more dramatic effect. The lighting in Madoka Magica is so important to the mood of any given scene, so I wanted to make sure my shadows are doing their job. Darker shadows make the girls pop out more against the background and add depth to the composition. I'm also thinking about where the light source would be coming from and trying to keep my shadows consistent. We finished up by putting small, simple shadows beneath each character's feet to ground them to the scene. It's a small detail, but without those contact shadows, the characters would look like they're floating. We want them to feel like they're actually standing in this space, facing the threat together. And I think we're done. Okay, I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's wild to compare this to what I drew 10 years ago and see just how much things have changed. So what do you think? Did my art improve? I'd like to think 10 years of practice paid off. It's genuinely so cool to look back at where I started and see how far I've come. The old art has its charm. There is an enthusiasm there that I think is really sweet, but technically speaking, we've leveled up a lot. If you're an artist watching this, I really encourage you to try redrawing your old work sometime. It's such a fun way to see your growth, reconnect with the things that inspired you in the first place, and remind you why you started creating. Plus, it's a great excuse to revisit a fandom you love. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching me suffer through all these magical girl ruffles. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps out the channel. If you want to support me even further, I have a Patreon where you can get access to behind-the-scenes content, early videos, and other fun perks. And if you're interested in hiring me for your own artwork, you can find me on VGen. All the links are in the description below. Alright, that's all from me. See you in the next one.